Today we are going to study gram-positive rods, and um, the first one is Bacillus anthracis. It is a gram-positive spore-forming rod that produces anthrax toxin, exotoxins consisting of protective antigen, uh, lethal factor. The lethal factor inhibits MAP kinase and causes macrophage apoptosis, and edema factor, which acts as adenosine cyclase and increases the intracellular CAMP, upsetting homeostasis and causing edema and necrosis. It has a polypeptide capsule made of poly-D-glutamate. It has colonies that show a halo of projection, sometimes called Medusa head appearance. Okay, this one's new for me, the Medusa head appearance. Cutaneous anthrax is painless papules surrounded by vesicles, as shown in this diagram. It is an ulcer with black eschar. It is painless and necrotic, uncommonly progresses to bacteremia and death. And there's pulmonary anthrax, which is inhalation of spores most commonly from contaminated animals or animal products, although also has a potential bioweapon. Flu-like symptoms that rapidly progress to fever, pulmonary hemorrhage, mediastinitis. CXR may show widened mediastinum and shock, also called wool-sorter's disease. Prophylaxis with ciprofloxacin or doxycycline when exposed, and we'll use our pink for the um, antibiotics. But both cutaneous and pulmonary anthrax may be complicated by hemorrhagic meningitis. Okay. And the next one is Bacillus cereus. It is a gram-positive rod, causes food poisoning. Spores survive cooking rice, reheated rice syndrome. Keeping rice warm results in germination of spores and enterotoxin formation. Emetic type causes nausea and vomiting within 1 to 5 hours caused by cereulide, which is a preformed toxin. Diarrheal type causes watery, non-bloody diarrhea and GI pain within 8 to 18 hours. Management is supportive care. Antibiotics are ineffective against toxins. So if you have a presentation of a patient who has either diarrhea or vomiting after eating rice and he is not ineffective against antibiotics, he probably has been affected by Bacillus cereus. The next bacteria is Clostridioides difficile. It produces toxin A and B, which damage enterocytes, which are the cells of the intestine. Both toxins lead to watery diarrhea that results in pseudomembranous colitis. Um, Often secondary to antibiotic use, especially clindamycin, ampicillin, cephalosporins, and fluoroquinolones associated with PPIs. Fulminant infection involves toxic megacolon, ileus, and shock. Difficile causes diarrhea diagnosed by PCR or antigen detection of one or both toxins in the stool. Treatment is oral vancomycin. Oh, wait, I have to use my pink for the drugs. Oral vancomycin or fidaxomicin. For recurrent cases, consider repeating prior regimen or fecal microbiota transplant. What is a fecal microbiota transplant? Yeah, that one. It is a medical procedure that transfers stool from a healthy donor into a patient's gut to restore a balanced microbiome. Oh, that's something new for me. And it is used to treat recurrent Clostridioides difficile infections. Okay. So Clostridioides produces toxin A and B. Bacillus cereus has a preformed toxin called cereulide, and Bacillus anthracis has toxins called lethal factor, edema factor, and protective antigens, and a poly-D-glutamate capsule. And for the treatment of Bacillus anthracis, you give ciprofloxacin or doxycycline. For the treatment of Bacillus cereus, you have to give supportive care. And for Clostridioides difficile, you have to give oral vancomycin or fidaxomicin. Next are the Clostridia, which are gram-positive spore-forming obligate anaerobic rods. So they are spore-forming and they are obligate anaerobic rods. Um, Tetanus toxin and botulinum toxin are proteases that keeps their protein involved in neurotransmission. So the first is Clostridium tetani. The range of cells or inhibitory neurons are inhibited by the tetanus toxin, and these are basically providing a role in the inhibition of motor neurons. So when they're not being inhibited in because of the tetanus toxin, there's going to be unopposed stimulation and spastic paralysis, and the muscle is going under spastic paralysis. And in the Clostridium botulinum, the botulinum toxin is inhibiting the motor neuron, so there's no stimulation, and there's going to be flaccid paralysis instead of spastic paralysis. Flaccid paralysis. Okay, so in Clostridium tetani, pathogen is non-invasive and remains localized to wound site. Produces tetanospasmin, an exotoxin that causes tetanus. Tetanospasmin spreads by retrograde axonal transport to CNS and blocks release of GABA and glycine from ventral cells in the spinal cord. Causes spastic paralysis, trismus, which is lockjaw, rhizus sardonicus, which is raised eyebrow and open grin, and opisthotonose, which is spasm of spinal extensors. And opisthotonose is basically a position in the body in which the body is bent like this, and it is with these being the feet, this being the back, and this being the hands of the person. It actually means having a weird posture. Tetanus is tetanic paralysis. Prevent with tetanus vaccine. Treat with antitoxin, positive and negative vaccine boosters, antibiotics, and diazepam for muscle spasms and wound debridement. Okay. Then Clostridium botulinum produces a heat labile toxin that damages snape proteins. So the toxin is heat labile. This preventing acetylcholine release at the neuromuscular junction, causing botulism. In babies, ingestion of spores leads to disease, which is known as floppy baby syndrome. In adults, disease is caused by ingestion of preformed toxin, example in canned food. Um, Symptoms of botulism are the 5 Ds: diplopia, dysarthria, dysphagia, dyspnea, descending flaccid paralysis, and does not present with sensory deficits. So there are no sensory deficits. But diplopia, which is double vision, dysarthria, which is the pain in joints, dysphagia, which is the inability to swallow, dyspnea, which is the inability to sleep, and descending flaccid paralysis, which is spasm of the muscles. Botulinum is from bad bottles of food, juice, and honey. Treatment is human botulinum immunoglobulin, local botulinum toxin A or Botox injections used to treat facial dystonia, hyperhidrosis, muscle spasms, and cosmetic reduction of facial wrinkles. So there are local Botox injections that are used to treat hyperhidrosis. I don't know what that means. So it is a condition characterized by excessive sweating beyond what is needed for normal temperature regulation, often affecting the hand, feet, armpits, face, or scalp. All right. So for the treatment of it, you need local botulinum toxin A or Botox injection. Again, this has a heat labile toxin that leaves the snail proteins, and it causes floppy baby syndrome in children because of ingestion of honey specifically. And in adults, it is going to cause flaccid paralysis, and it is treated with local botulinum toxin A, while Clostridium tetani is treated with diazepam or antitoxin vaccine boosters and antibiotics and wound debridement. Okay, the next one is Clostridium perfringens, produces an alpha toxin, which is lecithinase, or which is a phospholipase, an enzyme that can cause myonecrosis. For example, gas gangrene, as shown in this picture, present as soft tissue crepitus and hemolysis. If a heavily spore contaminated food is cooked but left standing too long at greater than 60 degrees Celsius, the spores germinate and vegetative bacteria are ingested and release of enterotoxin. Late onset food poisoning symptoms, resolution in 24 hours. Perfringens perforate a gangrenous leg, spontaneous gas gangrene by hematogenous seeding associated with colonic malignancy is most commonly caused by Clostridium septicum. I need to see what hematogenous seeding is. Is the process by which pathogens spread through the bloodstream to infect distant tissues or organs. So, spontaneous gas gangrene is spread by metagenous seeding, and it is associated with colonic malignancy and most commonly caused by Clostridium septicum. Next one is Corynebacterium diphtheria. These are gram-positive rods occurring in angular arrangements transmitted by respiratory droplets. It causes diphtheria via exotoxin encoded by beta-prophage. Potent exotoxin inhibits protein synthesis via ADP ribosylation of elongation factor 2, leading to possible necrosis in the pharynx, cardiac, and CNS tissue. Symptoms include pseudomembranous pharyngitis, which is grayish-white membrane, as shown in this picture, with lymphadenopathy or bull's neck appearance. There is toxic dissemination, which may cause myocarditis, arrhythmias, and neuropathies. So, the CNS, neuropathies, myocarditis by the cardiac, and arrhythmias by the cardiac tissue necrosis as well. Lab diagnosis based on gram-positive rods with metachromatic blue and red granules and positive ELEC test for toxin. So, what is an ELEC? ELEC test. ELEC test. It is an in vitro immunodiffusion assay used to determine the toxigenicity of Corynebacterium diphtheria strains. Okay, so this is a specific test for Corynebacterium diphtheria, and in this toxin is positive for this test. Toxoid vaccine prevents diphtheria. Corny mean or corine means club-shaped metachromatic granules on lophler media, black colonies on cysteine tellurite agar. ADP ribosylation, beta-prophage, Corynebacterium diphtheria, elongation factor 2, and granules. Treatment is by diphtheria antitoxin, erythromycin, or penicillin. The major diseases it can cause is, again, for the pharynx, cardiac, and CNS tissue, including pseudomembranous pharyngitis, myocarditis, arrhythmias, neuropathies, and the exotoxin is beta-prophage. And the exotoxin for Clostridium perfringens was alpha-toxin or lecithinase, which was causing myonecrosis and hemolysis, and they were food poisoning symptoms. The next one of our gram-positive bacteria is Listeria monocytogenes. It is gram-positive facultative intracellular rod, so it lives intracellularly, acquired by the ingestion of unpasteurized dairy products and cold dairy meats, transplacental transmission, and by vaginal transmission during birth, grows well at refrigeration temperatures or cold enrichment, forms rocket trails, which are shown in this diagram, by actin polymerization that allow intracellular movement and cell-to-cell spread across cell membranes, thereby avoiding antibody. Listeriolysin generates spores in phagosomes, allowing its escape into the cytoplasm. Okay, so listeriolysin is, I suppose, a toxin that generates spores in the phagosomes, allowing its escape into cytoplasm. Characteristic tumbling motility in broth can cause amnionitis, sepsis, and spontaneous abortion in pregnant patient, granulomatosis in septica, meningitis in immunocompromised patients, neonates and older adults, mild self-limited gastroenteritis in healthy individuals, and treatment is, of course, by ampicillin. Okay. So this one is because of unpasteurized cold deli meats, and it has a lot to do with rocket trails, tumbling motility, and actin polymerization. The diseases are in three different groups of demographics. In pregnant patients, it can cause amnionitis, sepsis, and spontaneous abortion. In infants, it can cause granulomatosis and septica, and in the immunocompromised and older adults, it can cause meningitis, and healthy individuals, it is going to cause gastroenteritis. So I think this is particularly high in the group of diseases that is going to cause in different demographics. Okay, the next are the branching gram-positive bacteria, and these include nocardia versus actinomyces. Both are gram-positive and form long branching filaments resembling fungi. We are coming to the end of our gram-positive, and I'm very delighted at this small achievement. So let's dig into nocardia. They are aerobes and they are catalase positive. Whereas actinomyces is anaerobe and catalase negative. Actinomyces is not acid fast and Nocardia is acid fast, weakly acid fast. Actinomyces is present in normal oral, reproductive, and GI microbiota, and nocardia is found in the soil. Actinomyces causes oral or facial abscesses that drain through sinus tracts, often associated with dental caries or extraction and other maxillofacial trauma. Forms yellow sulfur granules, can also cause pelvic inflammatory disease with IUDs. And on the other hand, nocardia causes pulmonary infection in immunocompromised patients, can mimic TB but with negative PPD. Cutaneous infections after trauma in immunocompetent can spread to CNS and cause cerebral abscesses. And the treatment involves penicillin for actinomyces and sulfonamides or TMP SMX for nocardia. Treatment is a SNAP, sulfonamides, nocardia, and actinomyces penicillin. So again, nocardia is catalase positive, actinomyces is the opposite. It is weakly acid fast, it is not. And nocardia is found in soil and actinomyces in oral reproductive and GI microbiota. Nocardia basically causes pulmonary infections and cerebral abscesses, whereas actinomyces causes oral and facial abscesses that drain through sinus tracts, dental caries, and pelvic inflammatory disease and yellow sulfur granules. Nocardia is treated with sulfonamides and actinomyces with penicillin. I'd like to repeat the treatments and toxins quickly. Bacillus anthracis, um, edema factor, lethal factor, and protective antigen treated with ciprofloxacin or doxycycline. Bacillus cereus, cereulide treated with supportive care. Uh, Clostridioides difficile. Um, Clostridioides difficile is treated with um, oral vancomycin or fidaxomicin, and it is I'm sorry, so again, where we Clostridioides difficile is treated with oral vancomycin or fidaxomicin, and it has A and B toxins. Clostridia have the toxin that leaves snail proteins, the Clostridium protein treated with diazepam, and botulinum treated with human botulinum immunoglobulin. Perfringens has alpha toxin lecithinase, and they've not given its treatment, right? No. And then Corynebacterium diphtheria has beta prophage, and it is treated with erythromycin or penicillin. Listeria monocytogenes is treated with ampicillin, and it has actin polymerization. Then we have nocardia that is treated with sulfonamides and actinomyces that is treated with penicillin. So this was it for this video. I hope you've learned something. We'll meet in our next video on mycobacteria and tuberculosis.